Welcome to my channel. Today we dive into the shocking courtroom drama surrounding the Browns, a revelation that no fan of Sister Wives ever expected. The headlines exploded after court documents revealed the existence of a secret $7 million trust fund, a fund that had been hidden in plain sight for years. And now the judge is demanding answers that could alter the fate of Kody, Robyn, and the entire family forever. The revelation didn't come quietly. It came with evidence, testimony, and a thunderous reaction from Christine, Janelle, and Meri, who have long suspected that something wasn't right with how the family finances were handled. For years, viewers watched the wives scrape together money for their households, while Kody insisted there was barely enough to get by. Yet now, with a courtroom projector flashing balance sheets and trust documents, the world knows the truth. Millions of dollars were tucked away, waiting to be uncovered. It started with a financial expert called to testify on behalf of Christine and Janelle. This expert had combed through years of family business filings and bank records. The room went silent as he announced that a trust account, under the name of Brown Family Holdings Trust, had been receiving deposits from both TLC production payments and family businesses, including the infamous Sister Wives Closet. Each payment, he explained, was systematically funneled into the trust and then quietly redirected into shell accounts that only Kody and Robyn had access to. When the judge leaned forward and asked why these funds were not disclosed during previous property division hearings, Kody's face turned crimson. He muttered about estate planning, about wanting to protect the family's future. But the wives weren't buying it. Christine whispered to Janelle, loud enough for nearby reporters to catch, "Future for who? Certainly not us." The evidence grew more damning. Screenshots of wire transfers and bank statements showed large sums, hundreds of thousands at a time, flowing from TLC's direct deposits straight into the trust. Robyn sat clutching her tissues, tears smudging her makeup as she avoided eye contact with the wives. The defense tried to argue that a trust was a standard way to safeguard assets. But the plaintiff's lawyer hammered back, if this was about safeguarding assets, why were Christine, Janelle, and Meri never listed as beneficiaries? Why was only Kody's signature present on key documents? And why does Robyn's name appear as trustee alongside Kody? The judge's gavel struck the bench to silence the murmurs in the courtroom. Christine then took the stand. Her voice trembled, but her words carried the weight of years of betrayal. She spoke about the times she begged Kody for funds to help with Isabel's medical bills, only to be told the family account was running dry. She recalled living on tight budgets, scrimping and saving, while Kody was secretly sitting on millions. Tears filled her eyes as she said, "We were lied to, over and over. He told us there was nothing, but there was always something, just not for us." Janelle followed with her own testimony, recalling how Kody blocked her attempts to build on Coyote Pass, citing financial shortages. Now she knew the truth. There was never a shortage, only deception. Meri's statement cut deeper than anyone expected. While often seen as distant in recent years, she stood tall and fierce in court. She declared that her decades of loyalty, her silent suffering, had been repaid with betrayal. To learn that money I sacrificed for, money I thought went to my children's futures, was siphoned into a secret trust. It's like discovering my whole life in this family was a fraud. Her voice echoed through the courtroom, leaving even reporters stunned. The judge, stern and measured, finally spoke. His words sent a ripple of gasps across the room. This court cannot overlook $7 million hidden through intentional concealment. Mr. Brown, you are hereby ordered to provide a full accounting of this trust within 10 days, or face severe legal consequences. Kody's shoulders slumped as though the weight of the gavel itself had crushed him. Robyn clutched his arm, whispering desperately, but he shook her off, eyes darting to the wives as though they had conspired to destroy him. As court recessed for the day, the tension spilled outside. Fans holding signs shouted support for Christine, Janelle, and Meri. Reporters swarmed them for comments, and while they remained mostly quiet, Christine said softly, "The truth always comes out." Meanwhile, Kody stormed past cameras, his face twisted with rage, barking at photographers to leave him alone. Robyn followed close behind, dabbing at her tears, shielding her face from the flashes. But the story doesn't end here. Behind closed doors, whispers circulated of even more damning evidence waiting to surface. Attorneys hinted that this $7 million trust was only the tip of the iceberg, that there may be offshore accounts, properties, and hidden business ventures tied to Kody's name. The courtroom drama has only just begun, And the next revelation could dismantle everything Kody has left. What if this trust isn't just about hidden money, but also about control, betrayal, and the final collapse of the Brown family legacy? As the courtroom reconvened the following morning, anticipation was thick in the air. People were already whispering that yesterday's revelation about the $7 million trust was only the beginning, and they weren't wrong. The plaintiff's lawyer wasted no time laying out a trail of documents that would deepen the scandal. She presented not only bank records but also emails, contracts, and letters between Kody and his financial advisors. On the big screen, projected for the entire courtroom to see, was an email from Kody to an accountant dated 3 years prior. The subject line read, "Trust Strategy." In it, Kody instructed the accountant to ensure the trust remained off public record, and that none of the wives except Robyn should have access. His exact words chilled the room. "The others don't need to know. This is for my legacy and Robyn's children's security." The wives looked at each other with disbelief and anger, while Robyn sat frozen, clutching her tissue, unable to look up. The judge leaned forward, his expression stern. "Mr. Brown, are you confirming this is your correspondence?" Kody mumbled that it was taken out of context, that he was trying to ensure financial stability for the family. But Christine's lawyer pounced, countering, "Financial stability for the family or for one wife's family?" The emphasis on one echoed in the courtroom. Janelle, sitting behind the table, shook her head in disgust. Meri crossed her arms, her eyes glaring at Kody with a coldness that years of betrayal had carved into her. Christine was then asked to testify again. This time, she shared a story from 2018, when she had considered buying a modest home in Utah. She described how Kody flatly refused, telling her the family didn't have the funds. "He said if I went through with it, it would jeopardize everyone else's stability." "I believed him," she told the court, her voice breaking. "But now, knowing there was a trust with millions just sitting there, it's like being betrayed twice over. Once in my heart and now again in public." The courtroom was silent except for the scribbling of reporters' pens. Janelle followed, presenting her own damning evidence. She brought forward a file she had found by accident in an old office box after she and Kody separated. The file contained correspondence about the trust, with Kody's signature on legal papers naming him and Robyn as trustees. "I remember when I stumbled on it, I thought maybe it was just some complicated legal jargon I didn't understand. But I kept the papers. Now I see what it really was, a blueprint for cutting us out." Gasps filled the courtroom as the papers were entered into evidence. The defense scrambled to reframe the narrative. Kody's lawyer argued that the trust was standard estate planning, something meant to protect the family's long-term assets. He insisted that Christine, Janelle, and Meri had misunderstood, that Kody wasn't trying to exclude them, but rather trying to ensure that assets wouldn't be lost in divorce or legal disputes. But then came the bombshell. The plaintiff's lawyer revealed that not only was Robyn listed as trustee, but her children were explicitly named as beneficiaries, while Christine's, Janelle's, and Meri's children were left off entirely. At this revelation, the courtroom erupted. Reporters whispered frantically into phones, the wives gasped audibly, and Robyn broke down in tears, covering her face with her hands. Christine's lawyer drove the point home. This wasn't estate planning. This was estate theft. This was a man ensuring that only one branch of his family tree would inherit while the others were erased. The judge's gavel slammed down hard, restoring order, but the tension only deepened. The judge then turned directly to Kody. His voice was firm, carrying the weight of authority. "Mr. Brown, you have one final opportunity to explain why this trust excluded 3 wives and their children. The documents are clear, and your emails show intent. You will need to answer." Kody looked pale, sweat gathering at his temples. He stammered something about protecting those who were still loyal to him, about trying to shield Robyn's young children from hardship. But his words rang hollow in a room filled with people who had seen the truth in black and white. When court recessed, the hallway outside was chaos. Fans and reporters shouted questions, some calling Kody a fraud, others yelling words of support for the wives. Christine, holding Janelle's hand, whispered, "We finally have proof." Meri walked slightly apart from them, but her face showed quiet determination. Robyn left in tears, escorted quickly to a waiting car, while Kody stormed out, refusing to answer any questions, his face red with fury. Yet even with all of this damning evidence, whispers began to circulate. If the trust was worth $7 million, what else was hidden? Was this the only account or just the first one discovered? Could there be more shell companies, offshore accounts, or secret deals that had yet to surface? As the lawyers hinted at further revelations to come, the question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Was this the end of Kody's empire, or just the beginning of an even bigger scandal waiting to be revealed? The third day of the hearing began with a tension so thick you could almost feel it press down on the courtroom. Everyone knew by now that the $7 million trust was only part of the story. The plaintiff's lawyer wasted no time dropping the next piece of evidence: a chain of financial transfers connecting the Brown Family Holdings Trust to a series of smaller accounts scattered across Arizona, Nevada, and even Utah. Each account was under different LLC names, but they all had one thing in common: Kody's signature. The courtroom gasped as a massive chart appeared on the projector, showing arrows moving money from TLC deposits into the trust and then funneling outward to these mysterious companies. At the top of the chart, highlighted in bold red letters, were the words asset diversion. Christine's lawyer laid out the case step by step. First, the TLC payments came in. Second, the money was shifted into the trust. Third, it disappeared into LLCs like Desert Sun Holdings, CBR Management, and Flagstaff Family Ventures. Each LLC was traced back to Kody, or in some cases to Robyn as a co-signer. "Ladies and gentlemen," the lawyer declared, "this wasn't about protecting assets. This was about hiding them." Kody shifted uncomfortably in his chair, whispering to his attorney. Robyn dabbed at her eyes, her voice trembling as she muttered, "It wasn't supposed to look like this." The wives listened intently. Christine squeezed Janelle's hand as the lawyer pointed out how much money had flowed through these accounts. Millions, siphoned away from what was supposed to be family wealth. Janelle's face hardened, her voice breaking when she told reporters during a recess, "All the times I was told we couldn't afford to build on Coyote Pass, this money was sitting right there. It's theft, plain and simple." Meri, usually the most restrained, leaned toward a reporter and muttered, "And they thought we'd never find out." Back in court, the plaintiff's lawyer unveiled the next bombshell: documents showing Robyn had signed off on several large withdrawals used to buy luxury jewelry, designer clothing, and even property in her name alone. Photos of receipts and deeds were flashed across the screen, each one more damning than the last. The defense scrambled, claiming these were family purchases, but Christine's lawyer quickly retorted, "Family? Whose family?" Because Christine's children didn't benefit. Janelle's children didn't benefit. Meri's children certainly didn't benefit. The only ones living in luxury were Kody, Robyn, and her kids. The judge's gavel slammed again as the room buzzed with outrage. Christine then returned to the stand for a pivotal moment. She revealed that Isabel's surgery, the one Kody refused to attend because of financial strain, could have been paid for multiple times over by the money in the trust and the LLCs. Her voice cracked as she recounted the nights. She stayed awake wondering how she'd cover expenses, not knowing millions were being siphoned away. Janelle nodded, tears in her eyes, saying softly, "He let us suffer while he lived like a king." The defense tried to claw back ground by painting Kody as a man overwhelmed, someone trying to manage too many households and making mistakes along the way. But then came the voice that cut through the noise, the judge himself. "This does not appear to be mere mismanagement," he said slowly, his gaze locked on Kody. "This appears to be deliberate concealment and fraudulent use of family funds." The words hung heavy in the air. Robyn's sobs echoed across the room, while Kody sat frozen, staring at the floor. As reporters rushed to type out the judge's statement, a new twist emerged. Christine's lawyer hinted that they had yet another witness ready to testify, a financial insider who had worked with Kody on setting up one of the LLCs. This person, the lawyer said, would reveal just how intentional these transfers were, and just how far Kody was willing to go to protect his secret empire. The courtroom murmured with excitement and dread, reporters leaning forward as though bracing for the next explosion. Outside the courthouse, supporters of Christine, Janelle, and Meri cheered loudly. Some held signs reading "Justice for the Wives" and "Kody Exposed." The energy was electric, the crowd swelling with each revelation. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn exited through a back door, dodging cameras, their expressions grim and desperate. But the suspense only deepened. If millions had already been exposed, the question now was how much more lay hidden beneath the surface. Were there offshore accounts? Hidden properties in other states? Secret partnerships that no one had uncovered yet? The wives had momentum on their side, but Kody still had resources and allies willing to fight for him. As the judge prepared to hear from this mysterious insider, one thing was certain. The biggest shockwave of all was still waiting to hit. On the fourth day of testimony, the entire courtroom was buzzing with anticipation. Everyone knew that a new witness was scheduled to take the stand, and whispers of their identity had already made their way into the press. When the bailiff called the name, the wives leaned forward, their eyes widening. It was a former financial consultant who had worked with Kody years ago, during the height of Sister Wives' popularity. This was not just a random expert. This was someone who had been inside the room when the trust and the LLCs were being formed. The witness walked to the stand, their demeanor calm but resolute, holding a thick folder of documents that would soon make the room gasp in disbelief. Under oath, the witness began to recount how Kody had approached them to help create a financial system that would keep his wealth protected from complications. At first, it sounded like estate planning, but then Kody's true intentions became clear. According to the consultant, Kody specifically requested that only he and Robyn be listed on the trust, deliberately leaving Christine, Janelle, and Meri out of the loop. He told me, the witness explained, that the other wives didn't need to be involved because they didn't contribute enough financially to justify inclusion. The courtroom erupted at this revelation. Christine covered her mouth in shock. Janelle shook her head with tears in her eyes, and Meri sat stiffly, her face pale with anger. The consultant then produced a series of memos and emails signed by Kody himself. In one memo, Kody wrote, "The trust will guarantee security for Robyn and me. The others can fend for themselves if they choose to leave." The lawyer for Christine and Janelle projected the memo onto the screen for all to see. Gasps echoed through the room. Reporters typed furiously, capturing every word. The judge's stern gaze fixed on Kody, who sat slumped in his chair, muttering under his breath. Robyn wiped her tears and whispered, "This is being twisted." The defense scrambled to object, claiming the memos were taken out of context, but the consultant pushed back firmly. They explained how Kody had been methodical in setting up multiple LLCs, each designed to shift funds away from family accounts and into private holdings under his and Robyn's control. He didn't just want to protect money, the witness said. He wanted to erase the other wives from the financial picture completely. The lawyer asked if Robyn had been aware of these decisions, and the consultant nodded. She signed off on several of the accounts. She knew. Robyn shook her head from the defense table, mouthing the words, "That's not true." But the evidence said otherwise. Christine's lawyer turned to the wives and asked if they had ever seen or heard of these memos. All three shook their heads. Christine whispered, "Never. We trusted him." Janelle added, "We sacrificed for years while he planned this." Meri's eyes were locked on Kody, her face full of fury. The judge interrupted the proceedings, his voice echoing across the silent courtroom. "This evidence paints a picture of deliberate fraud and exclusion. Mr. Brown, the accusations against you grow heavier with each passing day. You will need to address these documents directly." Kody shifted in his chair, gripping the edge of the table, his knuckles white. He mumbled about protecting the family, about how these memos were misinterpreted, but his words rang hollow in the charged silence of the room. The consultant wasn't done. They revealed one final detail. Kody had discussed the possibility of moving funds out of the country if things ever went south. He had asked about setting up accounts in Belize and the Cayman Islands. While it was unclear if he ever followed through, just the mention of offshore accounts sent the courtroom into chaos. Gasps, whispers, and frantic typing filled the air. The wives stared at Kody in disbelief. Christine looked like she was about to cry. Janelle's jaw was clenched tight, and Meri's expression hardened into stone. The judge ordered the courtroom to settle down, but the damage had been done. The implication that Kody might have tried to stash family money overseas was explosive. "This court will be investigating these allegations further," the judge announced. Kody's lawyer begged for time, insisting that nothing illegal had taken place. But the judge was clear. This is not merely about legality. This is about trust, transparency, and the livelihoods of those who were deceived. As the day came to a close, the wives stood together outside the courthouse, surrounded by supporters chanting their names. Christine simply said, "The truth is coming out." Janelle added, "We won't stop until everything is exposed." Meri, Usually the most quiet stunned everyone by saying firmly, "He thought he could erase us. He was wrong." Their words sent a wave of emotion through the crowd. Inside, Kody and Robyn slipped away quickly, avoiding reporters. Cody's face was red with anger, while Robyn sobbed uncontrollably, muttering about how it wasn't supposed to happen this way. But the truth was undeniable. The walls were closing in, and the trust that Kody thought would protect him had become the very evidence that might destroy him. But even after this bombshell, one haunting question lingered in the minds of everyone watching. If $7 million was uncovered in this trust, how much more money could still be hidden, waiting to surface? And what would happen if the court decided to pursue criminal charges instead of just civil ones? The answer was still out there, and the Browns were bracing themselves for the storm to come. As the final day of this round of hearings began, the tension in the courtroom was so intense that even the air felt heavy. Everyone knew the judge was preparing to make a statement, and after days of damning revelations, Kody's empire seemed to be crumbling before everyone's eyes. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat together, united in their quiet determination, while Kody and Robyn looked beaten down, their lawyer frantically shuffling through papers. The crowd of reporters filled every available seat, cameras poised for what was certain to be a pivotal moment. The plaintiff's lawyer stood and addressed the court one last time. She summarized the case, reminding everyone of the evidence that had been presented: the $7 million trust concealed from the wives, the series of LLCs siphoning funds, the luxury purchases made in secret, and the offshore accounts that hinted at even more hidden assets. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. This was not financial planning. This was calculated deception. This was not protection. This was exclusion, and it was done at the expense of Christine, Janelle, Meri, and their children. This court must recognize the gravity of that. Her words echoed in the courtroom, and the wives nodded in agreement, their eyes fixed firmly on Kody. The defense tried one last time to salvage Kody's reputation. His lawyer argued that the trust was misunderstood, that Kody had simply tried to protect his family from the chaos of multiple divorces and the unpredictability of fame. But the judge's expression remained stern, his eyes narrowing with every word. Robyn sobbed quietly, clutching Kody's arm as if holding on for dear life, while Kody's face was pale, his jaw clenched tight. Then the judge spoke. His voice was calm, deliberate, and unshakable. The evidence presented to this court is troubling. The concealment of assets, the exclusion of beneficiaries, and the deliberate misrepresentation of family finances cannot be ignored. Mr. Brown, your actions have raised serious questions not only about your integrity, but also about potential criminal liability. The words sent shockwaves through the room. Reporters typed furiously, fans outside the courthouse cheered as news spread, and Christine gasped audibly. Janelle reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly, while Meri's lips curled into the faintest smile. But the judge wasn't finished. He announced that a forensic audit of the trust and all related accounts would be ordered immediately. Every transaction, every hidden company, every potential offshore asset would be investigated thoroughly. This court will not allow millions of dollars to vanish under the guise of secrecy. The truth will come to light, the judge declared. Kody's lawyer tried to protest, but the gavel came down hard. The order was final. As court adjourned, chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed, fans outside shouted, and the wives walked out together, united, their faces a mixture of relief and vindication. Christine turned to the cameras and said, "We knew the truth would come out. This is just the beginning." Janelle added, "Justice is finally within reach." Meri simply said, "He can't hide forever." Their words were met with cheers and applause. Kody and Robyn slipped quietly out a side door, but not before reporters caught a glimpse of Kody's furious expression. His voice, though muffled, carried just enough to be heard. They think they've won, but they have no idea what's still out there. Robyn's sobs echoed as they disappeared into their waiting car. And that was the moment everyone realized the story was far from over. If a $7 million trust could be uncovered, what other secrets were buried even deeper? Were there more hidden accounts, offshore properties, or secret deals that had yet to see the light of day? And when those truths finally surface, would they be enough to bring Kody down completely, or would he find a way to fight back? The judge's audit had only just begun, and the cliffhanger now looming over everyone was chilling. What else would be exposed, And would the next revelation finally shatter the Brown family forever?